Just stream at 1080.
1440p would be obviously 2K.
No, 2K is 1080p because if you multiply 1080 by 1080, if you multiply 1080 times 2, no, 2K is 1080p.
Oh, never mind.
Never mind. Alright, so this is going to be some of the most interesting content we're going to really be peaking in this year. This is literally going to be the peak of my career as a YouTuber.
Hint, hint. I might be recording this, so I'm sorry.
This is literally going to be the peak of my career as a YouTuber. Because we're going to be reacting to exorcisms. If you don't know this, I am Catholic. I just, in fact, went to Mass today. Because it's like New Year's. It's like a holy day of obligation. And because our Blessed Mother... Okay, this is going to be... The truth about the exorcism of Emily Rose. I've never seen this.
What can you tell the audience
All right.
about this case of Annalise Michel?
Well, are people familiar with the case? So it's a
Assume they're not. Assume none of us are.
so the premise is so this is a lady in Germany who was determined to be possessed. She was working with a priest, and then she never did receive complete deliverance from the demonic oppression, and then she eventually died.
She
At
eventually...
23 years old.
Yes.
She died?
And first,
She
started,
died?
She what?
She died.
Oh.
Yeah, she...
experiencing this at
It's
16
tragic. That's just tragic.
I agree. Not the good time.
years old. And she would go to 6 different voices she would make, right? It's Nero, Cain, Judas, Hitler, Fleischmann. I'm missing one. Lucifer. And each voice sounds different. And then eventually, I mean, you look at it right now. I want you to watch this. I'm going to get your reaction on this. This is right here, Annalise Michel, who, if you listen to her voice, sounds like a regular voice speaking in German. If you want to play so the audience can hear it.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me go ahead. Hold on, let me just see that. Let me just see that clip. I have to see that for myself real quick. I really do have to see this for myself.
What can you tell the audience about this case of Annalise?
All right, let's see.
Ja, ich will auch für die anderen leiden, damit die nicht in die Hölle kommen und so. Aber dass das dann so schlimm ist und so grausam und so furchtbar, nee. Das denkt man leiden, das ist so leichte Sache, aber wenn es dann wirklich schlimm wird, da will man überhaupt nicht mehr, da will mein Kind schlafen.
Ihr Klötze. Nein, ihr Klötze. Und der Maul, ihr Klötze. Oh, so der will auch nicht. Oh, ich geh auch nicht. Oh.
Sind wir schon 3?
Ah, wie. Was ist so eine Scheiße?
Kind Gottes.
Ich hab ein Maul erschlagen.
Oh my goodness.
That was pretty absurd.
Yeah, this, I knew reacting. Okay, reacting to this was a good idea, honestly.
Die Ruhe. Ruhe gibt nur da oben.
Ruhe gibt's nur dort, wo die Liebe ist.
Ja, bei uns gibt neue Lohn.
Nur Hass.
Ja.
Und wo nur Hass ist, da gibt's keine Ruhe.
Ewigkeit.
Judas, and this one is Judas.
Die müssen in eigenen Seminaren ausgebildet werden, die dürfen nicht auf die anderen Universitäten. Kapiert?
Klar. Im Namen deines Sohnes, den Jungfrau, im Namen Jesu, befehle ich dir auszufahren. Im Namen des dreifaltigen Gottes, des Vaters, im Namen des dreifaltigen Geistes, befehle
Like, it's exorcisms is not like how it is in the movies. It's like not like they can't just do like the power of Christ compels you. Like, it's not like in the movies.
Ja, ich will
Let me make that clear.
God.
die anderen leiden, damit die nicht in die Hölle kommen und so. Aber dass das dann so schlimm ist und so grausam und so furchtbar, nee. Das denkt man leiden, das ist so leichte Sache, aber wenn es dann wirklich schlimm
Very normal. Okay, very normal. Fast forward to now. What she, yeah, go right there. So this is
Hitler.
Nein, ihr Klötze. Und der Maul, ihr Klötze. Oh, und der Hanne will auch nicht. Oh, ich geh auch nicht. Oh.
Sind wir schon drei?
Was ist so eine Scheibe?
I hope you're not watching this late at night. If you are,
Yeah.
here's Kane.
I'm watching this at like 11:35 a.m. on January 1st, 2025.
Do not watch it at night.
Very disturbing. Okay, go to the next one.
Yes, very disturbing indeed. Very disturbing indeed.
This is Nero.
Like, I was like, when I was like listening to this, you just saw my face in like the bottom right corner. You can just see my face go like,
Nur, Ruhe gibt's nur dort, wo die Liebe ist.
Ja, aber es gibt neue Lohn.
Nur Hass.
Ja,
Und wo nur Hass ist, da gibt's keine Ruhe.
nein.
Go to that one. This is Fleischman. Go to the next one.
Jetzt bin ich verdammt.
This is who?
This is
Die
Judas.
müssen in eigenen Seminaren ausgebildet werden, die dürfen nicht auf die anderen Universitäten.
what was I wondering? Judas as in Judas Iscariot?
Klar. Ist da sonst noch etwas zu sagen?
Last one is who?
Weil
Go to
das,
it.
weil
This is Lucifer.
Im Namen deines Sohnes, den Jungfrau, im Namen Jesu, befehle ich dir auszufahren.
Okay, you can pause it at this point. I said it's going to be disturbing.
But I
but,
gotta leave. This is,
No, but
well,
but you know what though? Here's the part. So, first of all, I feel bad for this girl. She passed away, 23 years old. Okay, you're talking about somebody. The mother. That's the mother standing right next to her. I mean, they made a movie about this. This turned into a story that people watched, and even if you try, like yesterday, Vinny, who's outside, who doesn't like Vinny, got a shout out on this, but Vinny, I said, try making this sound naturally. Like if you really try to yourself make this sound naturally,
I don't even want to. I don't even want to. I don't even want to.
How does somebody do it naturally, right? Okay. You may say,
I don't even want to make it. I don't even want to. Let's be real. Let's be real.
certain people that could do it. But this is a little strange, Adam.
You can make her crazy voice.
Like there's
Okay, that got me off guard.
people who they can do.
Only like voice actors, like if you're like a really good voice actor, you can make those kinds of voices.
The
Like
part
that's not that hard to do, bro.
Well, now I can do it.
The part he says, where it's those 4 signs,
Yeah.
unbelievable, out of nowhere power that comes in. Okay, like somebody on PCP. I don't know if you've seen somebody on PCP.
Yeah, they can lift the car up.
They can lift the. So that's that part. The other part is language spoken that you don't speak.
Yeah.
And then third one is saying information and things that you shouldn't know. Those two, maybe not the first one, but those two, it's a little. So when you see that, have you ever personally witnessed somebody like that?
Oh yeah, I've seen all those things.
All the time.
Oh my goodness! If you see people speak in languages that they do not typically speak, yeah, that's one thing to look out for.
You're being serious. You've seen that.
Day in the life.
Well, and because of the number of people that contact me, that it would be.
If you're like publicly an exorcist, I bet he gets like a lot of phone calls. Like, there's always this priest. I think in this area, I haven't met him, but they always rumor him to be an exorcist because he can feel like he's within my area and like that they rumor him to be an exorcist because he could. Because I've heard he like could like sense demons in a house or something.
Yeah, an ordinary part. I mean, I have no other exorcists who say they've never dealt with a case of possession in the years that they've been an exorcist. But some of us are publicly known, and some choose to remain anonymous. And those who are publicly known, we do receive a higher volume of people who reach out to us.
What's the key to success of the ones that are successful and someone has delivered?
Like I've heard, like to reach out to an exorcist, you have to go contact a priest, and that priest will go to the bishop, and the bishop contacts the Vatican. It's like really like a complicated level of contact, and like it could take like 5 years for an exorcism to happen. 5 years. But it doesn't. But possession only happens like very, very gradual. It gradually happens. It is not like that quick and boom, you're like possessed. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that.
Deliverance and can go live a life where they've, replaced it with, this belief in Christ, and now they're able to live free. What's the key to the success when you've gone through your filters that you've described? What's that key? Is there a key? Is there something common to the people that now live free?
I think there is. First of all, I would say that, oftentimes people that suffer are suffering alone. They're in isolation. So bringing them back into a sense of community, helping people reconnect with family and friends. Another, probably the biggest one, is helping people connect with God in their life. Because again, it's not just a matter of casting the evil out. I've said that before, I can't say it enough. It's about helping people develop an authentic relationship with God. It makes me think of the story of the Gerasene demoniac in chapter 5 of Mark's Gospel, that, the man who's possessed by Legion, he's living in the tombs. Shackles won't even hold him. There's the superhuman strength. He's possessed by Legion. Jesus casts the demons out. They go into the swine. The demons show their true character. They destroy the swine. They race over the hillside. They drown in the lake. Most people, when they're reading that biblical account, will stop reading at that point. But I would suggest the most important thing happens next. The man who's now free wants to follow Jesus, and Jesus says no. Now, how often in the Bible does Jesus tell somebody not to follow him? What does Jesus say to him? No, go home to your family. So Jesus takes someone who was living amongst the dead in the tombs and places him back amongst the living with his family. So again, creating healthy relationships is one of the ways that evil can be defeated.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch it,
Oh my goodness. That was insane. I had to like watch that whole clip, and like I went through like the whole clip. I've watched the whole clip. That was just replaying all of that. I was like thinking, my goodness, all those voices, you can't really do them naturally. I'm just in like outright shock. This is where we're getting good, actually. We're getting really good. No, and womp womp, not a lot of concurrent viewers. And people just stopped watching when people just tuned off when I don't know if this stream is gonna work, honestly. I don't know if this stream is actually gonna work. Yeah, stuff like The Exorcist, the movie, isn't actually like... Oh, let's do this one. Let's do this one.
Americans' belief in God, the devil, and other spiritual entities has fallen to a new low, according to a Gallup poll released in 2023. 74% of Americans say they believe in God, while 69% say they believe in angels, and 67% they believe in heaven, the poll found. Slightly smaller shares, 59% and 58%, say they believe in hell and the devil. And that's what the devil wants, for you to not believe he exists.
Exactly.
Here are several
clips
from Exorcists that prove otherwise.
Have you ever seen anyone levitate off?
I have.
Go on.
Well, it's an interesting thing because in the Catholic Church in America, so the USCCB, that's our governing body of bishops.
The USCCB, yeah, those are the governing body of bishops.
We're the only body of bishops that require, before we do the rite of exorcism, the person has to have both a physical checkup and a psychological.
Yeah, I like that because they can really foolproof. Like, the exorcisms, I really like that because they could foolproof. It's like more foolproof. Like a physical checkup and a psychological one, because you don't know what kind of mental illnesses the person may have.
Exam. Psychological exams are expensive. They're about $2,000. So
$2,000. Damn. They really are expensive. I thought this would be interesting, but no.
And we don't charge the victim because they're already suffering and they often don't have the resources. They've lost their home, their job, usually their wife, husband. But we require that because the law says that I have to have moral certitude that the devil is present. And to do that, we have to rule out psychological problems and all this. Okay. When I saw the man levitate off the couch, I had moral certitude that that's not a psychological condition. In all,
you have to like know that it. Yeah, you have to know that's not a psychological condition.
Countries, the exorcist needs moral certitude to perform an exorcism that there is the presence of the demon. But like I said, in America, we have to do those 2 tests to rule out other things. So when I saw this young man levitate off the couch, well, there's my moral certitude that this is not a psychological problem because that can't force someone to come out of the chair on their own. So that was when I didn't have to do that, the exam.
So I believe all of this. None of this surprises me. My view of the world is a Catholic view of the world. For people who might be skeptical, is it possible you just misperceived what was going on, or was your mind playing tricks on you, or?
No. Period.
Damn.
And I'll tell you why.
Dang. He actually just, his mind is improving tricks on him.
I don't work alone. I mean, that would be horribly imprudent to go into a situation when you're dealing with demons or the devil himself alone. So contrary to popular opinion in the movies we see about exorcisms, we never go alone at midnight during a thunderstorm to a strange person's house in the woods to do an exorcism. You know, sort of like this.
Yeah. Wait, this is not the usual setting of, okay, got it.
So I have a team. I always have other people with me. Often it's another priest. So we're all seeing the same thing, you know. They can speak languages that they've never known. They know things about you.
Like,
you or other people in the room that they couldn't know. So these are the hallmarks of how we about you or other people in the room that they couldn't know or known. They know things about you or other people in the room that they couldn't know. So these are the hallmarks of how we would determine, is this really a demon? Supernatural knowledge of things they could not know, languages they have not learned that they can speak fluently, and superhuman strength. I remember there was a little nun, about 100 pounds, 5 foot. I won't mention the order. And when she was going through a deliverance, it took 6 large men my size to hold her down.
oh my, 6 large men.
And that's what I mean. It's not possible that that little girl could have that strength. So we look at these things as kind of the hallmarks of this is not normal. This is a supernatural thing. I've seen that same nun run up a 20-foot wall like a squirrel.
My goodness. No way. No way.
And 2,000 people at a conference saw it too.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm pausing.
So there's the proof that that's not right. Can we all agree that's not normal?
That's not normal.
That's not normal.
That's
I've never
not
seen that
normal
happen.
at all.
And it's
You saw me like pause the video and I like stopped drinking. Everyone just tuned out because that's funny. I guess it's because everyone just freaking tuned off of just because, first of all, holy shit, no.
scary when you see it because he likes to inflame fear in people's hearts.
In my own personal experience, anytime I've dealt with Satan, he always manifests the same way.
And by Satan, you mean like the kingpin, like
the
Lucifer.
Kingpin. If you're talking about...
what's the way?
The mafia boss.
It is generally, there's kind of a severity, and it's actually kind of somewhat nondescript. He's the father of lies, so the way you primarily discern him is he just lies at everything. Even when it would go better for him, he's still going to lie. He's that wed to lying. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the devil
Beelzebub,
always
which is
lies.
also another name for Satan, because there's the three, which I can
The devil, Lucifer, and Satan. Those are all the 3 names.
tell you why that is, but Beelzebub, which is another name for Satan. We actually see that in Scripture, because Christ, they tell Christ, we think you're casting out demons by the power of Beelzebub, and then he just turns it and says, how can Satan cast out Satan?
Oh yeah, Jesus actually did say that. I think that's in like Matthew, I believe. I'm not sure, but I know.
So he turns that, which is a revelatory to us that these are actually the same guy. The fathers of the church all say they're the same guy. They also say that Lucifer is the same guy. So Satan, Lucifer, and Beelzebub are the same guy. The interesting thing is though that they manifest very differently. So as I mentioned, Satan is pretty nondescript, but he's a habitual liar. But when you get to Beelzebub, he manifests in a very distinctive way in every case I've ever had him. Lucifer, on the other hand, will never manifest the same way in any case I've ever seen him, which I've seen him in about 4 or 5 cases. So you just never see him in the same way.
Just real shifty, kind of Loki-like, right?
Yes, exactly.
Always
part of it is that he's
Christophanic. That I actually met that guy. Hold on, let's see. I don't know if you know this, but I actually met that guy.
liar. When you get to Beelzebub, he manifests in a very distinctive way in every case I've ever had him. Lucifer, on the other hand, will never manifest the same way in any case I've ever seen him, which I've seen him in about 4 or 5 cases. So you just never see him in the same way.
Just real shifty, kind of Loki-like, right?
I actually met that guy. That's Christophanic. I don't know if you remember. But if you do, like back in conference, let's see. That's him, and I'll skip over to right over here. That's me with Christophanic. I actually met him. Pretty cool, isn't it? So, I actually met that guy like in a conference. He's really cool. He's really cool though.
Right? Yes, exactly. Part of it is that he is basically the way it came out, which I've mentioned in other conferences. It's actually in the priest version of the book. It's not in the lay version of the book. Is at a certain point I had Beelzebub in a case, and at a certain point during the session, God commanded him to tell me something, and just out of the blue, he just looks at me and he says, "I'm the inversion of the Holy Ghost," and then boom.
Holy crap. Okay, that was the inversion of the Holy Ghost. That is insane.
Checks out. I couldn't get him back to the surface.
Wow.
I'm like, what does that even mean? And I had known from my research and studies, and that 2 things. One is that exorcists say they manifest differently, and so they actually thought they were different demons. And then, but the fathers of the church are very clear. Oh, no, he's the same guy. So I'm like, well, how does this work?
Lucifer, Beelzebub, and Satan are all the same guy. 3 expressions.
Yeah. So then I started asking Our Lady of Sorrows, what am I seeing, right? And then it just clicked.
That is Christophanic.
I just think she gave me the grace. So in the next session, I referred to him as the 3rd personality of Satan. And all of a sudden, boom, he just stopped. He was stunned. And it was kind of one of those Hollywood couldn't produce kind of expressions.
Yeah.
He was stunned, fearful. Okay, now the gloves are coming off. The whole bit. I mean, it's just this whole complexion of things. And I said, was the trifurcation of your personality the punishment for wanting to be God?
Yeah, if you read the Bible, Lucifer wanted to be God.
And he wouldn't answer. So, as we
That'll
say,
be a yes.
Yes. Yeah,
Check,
usually if
please.
they're not going to say anything, that's true. Otherwise, he would just said no.
It's like my kids, Did you do it? Oh, silence is a yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So later he said, yes, it was. And I said,
wow.
Lucifer is the 2nd personality of Satan, the inversion of Christ, who's light from light, because Lucifer means light bearer. And he said, yes. And Satan is the inversion of the 1st personality, because he's the father of lies. His inversion of father. He said. So then I asked him, was this trifurcation of your personality? And then, as I mentioned, was it the punishment for wanting to be God? And then he said yes.
Said, Michael, if you could meet the devil. Said, I don't know. I probably have met the devil a few times. Don't wish I
met him twice.
You've met him twice?
Personally.
How'd that go?
Not well the first time, because I wasn't even a seminarian. I was discerning. I just came out of my life of sin. I joined Our Lady of Victory, like I mentioned, and this little old Polish priest who became my spiritual director. And I remember one day I went in and I said, this job is killing me because, it was a sales position. I was entertaining big shots at all fancy restaurants every night, drink.
All right, I already been sent some videos that I can react to.
Drinking. I said, I can't balance this with trying to live this new life. It's not working. So he said to me, well, let's do this. Why don't you, for the next month, you can call ahead or go to meet to the restaurant early and tell the bartender when you order a drink that it would be just club soda, no vodka. But you would order it publicly and then they won't know. I said, I can do that. So he said, no alcohol for a month. So it's the middle of the day, it's like noon. I come out of the church and there's this beautiful, handsome man.
I'm going to tell you this, guys. I know a lot of people are tuning off and stuff, but I'm doing this because I would probably enjoy it. Not because anyone else would, but I'm doing this because this is something I want to do. and commentate over. And if you find
He's
this
staring at
video,
me.
great.
Which, if you've ever lived in New York, you don't stare at people.
It's pretty unusual.
Very. Like you put your eye, you don't.
Yeah.
It's almost an attack. Like this, I'm being attacked now. I have to fight. And I just was like, weird. So I turned to walk towards my office, and he runs up next to me and he grabs me by the arm. Again, no guys do that. No guy grabs somebody by the arm and is like escorting them. And he goes, let's get a drink. And I just had chills go up and down my body. And I said, get away from me. And then I turned direction and went towards my apartment because it was closer. And I got to my apartment and I walked through the doors, and the doors closed behind me. And I looked out and he was just laughing at me. And it was like, whew. So he leaves and I run back to the church. I go, Father, let me tell you what just happened. What do you think happened here? What is this? He goes, I told you you're going to have a target on your back, so you got to be careful. And I said, was that who I think it was? And he goes, sounds like it.
Certainly seems that way.
I mean, that was just no random person for sure. So that really, it's frightened me, to be honest. I was like, that I didn't sign up for this at all. And then a few years later, I was on a vacation visiting an old banker friend down in Miami. And she set up a whole luncheon at this place called Nikki Beach, which really isn't appropriate for seminarians or priests. Yeah. It's it's the glitterati, the high-powered, wealthy people. It's bottle service on the beach.
Right.
And I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about this. And the two girls to my right, I knew both of them. Sandra was hosting, and my ex-boss, Christine, was with me. And they start looking at this guy across over by the other end of the deck. Like, oh my God, look at that guy. He's so handsome. My guy's beautiful. And all of a sudden, Sandra's like, oh, he's coming over here. And I turn and I look, and it's him. It's the guy. It's the one that wanted to get the drink. Only now he's like shirtless in a bathing suit, and he walks up and he goes, what are you doing here? I thought you were going to be a priest. And he goes, this is my territory. You shouldn't be here. And both the girls got flipped out. They were like, they had the scare mechanism.
Like the face that I'm making right now?
Yeah, literally like, danger, Will Robinson. And Christine's like, get the check. And she threw money down. She's like, we're out of here. And we left. But like, when those things happen, God allowed it, right? So for me, I felt like I wasn't supposed to be there. And God was letting me know, you have no place going to places like that anymore. Don't do that again.
As soon as I started praying, she lunged at me like a wild dog. She's like,
oh my God.
I think I jumped back 5 feet. And this voice that came out of her mouth said, well, who's he? He has no power over us.
That's what happened when he was trying to help a woman who'd become possessed at the hands of childhood trauma, raped by her father.
And I went over and laid my hands on her head and started praying. And then the demon started laughing uncontrollably at me and says, you can't get rid of us. We've been here too long and you're not strong enough.
So you remember the sound? That's what the voice sounded like?
Oh yeah, usually the manifestation is always, you can't get rid of us. We've been here too long. Again, it's that sense of wanting to instill fear.
Lampert uses various rituals, including insufflation, a breathing prayer, which with one woman roused the devil in a frightening way.
The chair flew back and hit the side of the altar.
Okay, they had to add in the documentaries. They had to add in the sound effect. I'm sorry. They just wanted to make it sound more overdramatic and just add in the sound effect. I didn't need stinking sound effects to like...
The altar, the person flew up out of the chair and you heard a shriek, scream.
I mean, hearing that happen and visualizing that happen, the cynic in me says, I can't imagine that being a plausible thing to happen, for someone to fly off a chair and...
I mean, I just breathed and you would have thought that they were hit with a hurricane force wind. The chair just went back like that. And then the person, you hear this shriek as they come up out of the chair and then fall on the floor.
So that 100%, that's what happened?
That's absolutely.
That's frightening. Father Lampert tells me he's receiving about 1,800 calls, emails and letters every year from people all over the world who believe they're possessed. More than half of those, he says,
are false. They're false.
From people who aren't even Catholic or religious at all.
When I was first appointed,
I was just assuming that. Oh, interesting. They get calls from people that aren't even Catholic.
People who aren't even Catholic or religious at all.
When I was first appointed, I would get maybe 3 or 4 calls a week. Now I get like 35 calls a week.
This massive spike in requests, he thinks, is due to religion diminishing around the world.
Because faith is in decline, when people experience something in their lives that they can't really figure out, then it leads them to believe that maybe it's something evil or demonic.
But it's not as simple as believing you're possessed and calling an exorcist. The Catholic Church has strict protocols
Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier this stream.
and processes that priests must follow before deeming an exorcism to be appropriate.
Exorcists are trained to be skeptics. I should be the last person to believe that a person is possessed. Every other possible explanation needs to be exhausted before I make that determination. The very first step of the protocol would be for the person to have some
psychiatric evaluation and physical evaluation.
Type of psychiatric evaluation.
Hey, I know it. I knew it.
Those wanting help then have to answer a series of questions covering their psychological history and whether they've had addiction issues. They're also asked if they have had any experience or history of engaging in the occult, witchcraft, black magic, magicians, fortune tellers, crystals, wizards or game boards. Other questions...
Like stuff like an Ouija board. Yeah, that's why I don't trust them. I would just smash it with an axe. I would just definitely smash it with an axe.
Include, have you ever tried to communicate with spirits, demons, or the devil itself? And do you truly want to be free of the evil influences you believe are presently affecting you? Will you do what must be done?
I witnessed eyes rolled in the back of the head. I've seen eyes turn completely black.
No way. Turn completely black? That sounds creepy just visualizing that.
There's nothing in there but like total darkness, foaming at the mouth.
Foaming at the mouth like rabies?
Catholic Church doesn't allow filming of exorcisms to protect the identity of those afflicted, but others not sanctioned by the Church have been.
Exorcisms don't take place on a dead-end street at midnight in an abandoned house during a thunderstorm.
That's where you would normally do an exorcism.
Father Lampert always executes the exorcism in a sacred space, like the church itself.
So I would have the book, I would have a crucifix, would come in, and then immediately begin doing the prayer of the church.
He'll then command the demon to
By
depart.
his righteous judgment has damned your pride and envy.
At that point in the exorcism, if you see that disturbing
Oh yeah, there's the
behaviour,
Vatican flag. That's the Vatican flag over there. Wait, why did I mute?
that point in the exorcism, if you see that disturbing behaviour, what do you do to counteract that?
I just continue, I stay focused on the prayer of the church, and I watch and observe everything that's taking place. And if certain parts of the ritual seem to be more effective than others, I just take a mental note of that.
Since I have done exorcisms, I am an exorcist.
3.5 hours drive north, Father Michael Maginot has conducted exorcisms on 15 different people, some needing more than one session.
Kind of surprising that words would have an effect on, you know, a demon.
I cast you out.
But it does. They hate it. They can't stand the prayers. They can't stand being condemned.
Be gone and stay far away from this creature of God.
Father Maginot performed his most high-profile exorcism on a mother and her 3 children who lived in a home right here in the town of Gary, south of Chicago. After making headlines as the portal to hell, the house was demolished. This is where the family believes they became possessed. What started as persistent swarms of flies on the porch transpired into strange noises at night, and ultimately the mother's 12-year-old daughter levitating above her bed, unconscious.
The last night we stayed in the house, that's when it was throwing my children around.
Within months of moving into this rental home with her kids, Latoya Amons knew something wasn't right.
It picked up a lamp from out of my bedroom and threw it into the living room. It was throwing chairs. They were throwing chairs.
Father Maginot was called to the house to speak with the mum, finding what he believed to be several signs of demonic possession, including unexplainable footprints around the house.
I went to the bathroom, I went to the kitchen, if there was a leak or something, they weren't there. They were just around her, but they were wet. And I don't remember seeing them before.
During that conversation, were there any sort of key red flags that made you concerned that this was something?
Took my crucifix, put it on her. She began convulsing. And then I took it off and she stopped convulsing. And I said, you are possessed. You have an aversion to holy objects.
What's claimed to have happened here at the local hospital is disturbing and backed up by medical staff who say they witnessed it in this report. The 7-year-old son started making growling sounds while his eyes rolled back into his head. His older brother then walked up a wall backwards, flipping over his grandmother.
What? Let me see that again. I need to do a double take.
Grandmother.
I need to do a double take.
The nurses were standing in the door and they bagged up saying, oh my God, oh my God. Whose room is this?
The children's grandmother, Rosa Campbell, gave police a tour through the house, which officers recorded.
She saw it forming.
She describes a series of violent occurrences.
And pick him up and throw him into this deep freezer, head first. Like, nobody's gonna believe this, Toya. I knew it. They're gonna think everybody's crazy.
And that's the lingering question. Do demons exist? And
Oh, really?
do they inhabit the souls of people around us?
What do you say to people who don't think demons are real?
There is no other explanation for certain things.
The role of the church is not to impose, but to propose. So one of the reasons I like to speak out on the topic of exorcism is just to help educate people with what the church actually believes and teaches. And then what people do with that is ultimately up to them.
And what a perfect way to end, because as we end every video on this channel, the only real sadness, the only real failure, the only great tragedy in life is not to become a saint.
All right, this video was just sent to me by my mother. Like, I want to thank my mom for helping me out with this. So that video was, hold on, let me go ahead and make sure that's on the Brave browser so I can send this. Is there a way I can send it to desktop? Send? All right. Religion is a part of my humor in some cases. I'm gonna say this, religion is a part of my humor. I think this. How do I send it over? Can you say Hal, please? God loves you. Thank you, Hal. Thank you. Thank you. This is oh wow. I'm sorry I didn't see your message earlier. I was just trying to figure this thing out. Because it's Chromium bait. I don't know, it's WebKit. I find it interesting that it's WebKit, but it's also, hold on, let me figure this out. Send to your devices. There. This. Send. And. Sent. Okay, why isn't it? Send to your devices. Send. Oh, there we go.
The Holy Staircase. Father Amort continued his work at his residence, the home of the Pauline priests, where on May 1st, 2016, he invited me to witness Christina's 9th exorcism. Christina, why are you here to see Father Amort?
Il fatto che avevo cominciato il percorso di liberazione, poi sono andata un giorno a una messa perché cercavo aiuto, già ero seguita da un sacerdote, poi lui è l'esorcista più forte che c'è, 30 anni di esperienza, quindi...
Do you believe that you're possessed?
No, però in tanti anni, tante situazioni che mi sono successe mi hanno portato a pensare sempre una vita di disastri.
I'm sorry, I'm a little unnerved. I'm a very unnerved.
How can you be sure that Christina is possessed?
La certezza che ci sia la presenza del demonio, il cielo soltanto faceva.
This was like a very famous exorcist. He like passed away like I believe in 2016. So almost like 10 years ago. Almost. And getting closer since this is a new year.
Perché quando faccio l'esorcismo
Yep, thank you for tuning in.
Delle reazioni particolari.
I guess most of my viewers chickened out at this idea of content.
Sono esclusive.
Did they really have to put the music on? Hold on. Let's skip over to let's cut to the chase. Yeah, the purple stole is what they use for confessions. And I believe anointing of the sick as well. They use the purple stole. But some cases I've seen a priest use a white stole when I received confession once. Here we go.
Segno di croce, nel nome del Padre, del Figlio e dello Spirito Santo. Amen. Padre nostro, che sei nei cieli, sia santificato il tuo nome. Venga il tuo regno, sia fatta la tua volontà, come in cielo così in terra.
Father Amort begins every exorcism by thumbing his nose at the devil.
Thumbing his nose?
By thumbing his nose at the devil.
Thumbing his nose like... I think that's the Our Father.
In the room are Christina's family and other priests to assist Father Amort.
Santa Maria, Madre di Dio.
That's the Hail Mary. That's the Hail Mary. I just know this because there's like certain keywords. There's certain keywords. Because like it's just language common sense with languages. Like because Italian is a romantic language. It's a romantic language. Like Spanish. And I know like Spanish, like the Hail Mary in Spanish and and I also know like the first phrase, like I always use key phrasings for translations to like figure out what language is it. I believe they're praying in Italian though.
Amen. Gloria al Padre, al Figlio e allo Spirito Santo.
Glory be. I believe. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think so.
San Giuseppe, prega per noi. Padre Pio, prega per noi.
Pray for us.
Padre Candido, prega per noi. Beato Alberione, prega per noi. In nomine di Gesù Cristo, Dei Domini nostri, intercedente Immacolata Vergine, Vergine Maria, Beato Michele Arcangelo, Beati Apostoli, Petre, Paolo, et Anibus Santi, et Sacra Ministeri nostri autoritate convisi, ad infestazione diabolica, fraude, propaganda, securia credimus. Vista, master resisti, conoscias Christum Domino, via sua stelle. Illum etue, qui nisa timoratus est, in Iosef venuntavus, in Agnus Iisus, in nomine crucifixus, degli infermi trionfarono lui.
Dude, that's another priest. Because of the collar. Because of the collar. Although it's like this priest is wearing white, which is interesting. I've never seen him wear white like that. I've seen him always wear black with like the white collar. In person as well.
Infermi trionfarono lui. Recede. Recede ergo in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Intercedente, Immacolata Virgine Dei, Virgine Maria, da locum Spiritui Sancto, per oxigeno Sante Crucis, Domini nostri et Christi, Ficum Patre, et Deo de Spiritus Santo, vivi et regna.
That scared me.
Tenga stretto lei qui. Oh, benedetto Dio.
And they're using the voice modulation. I think that's like edited, which
Dominus vobiscum et spiritus tuo, oremus, Deus conditor et defensor generis humanis, qui homine ad immagine tua formaste, respice superam famulam tuam, quid olis immundi spiritus affectitus, quam vetus adversarius antiquus hostis terre, orbidinis terrore circumvolat, et sensu mentis humane, stupore de fine, terrore conturbat, et metus repidi timoris exaltita, piano, repelle domine, virtus.
I think my message will appear late in Love's. You think your message will appear late in Love's stream?
Diavoli, repelle domine, virtus.
Yeah, like you kind of appeared late.
Repelle domine, virtus diavoli.
In live stream. Oh, I know what you mean now. Your message will appear. I'm sorry about the typo. Come on, do this. You can do this.
Famula tua munita, et in animo tuo et corpore. Tu vectori tuus interna custod, tu viscera regas, tu cor confirmet, in anima versatrissimo sensati, sensamente vanescant, da nomine tanti invocazione, santissimi domini sui grazia, ubiusque terreba, terrius confugia, e vitus amsceda, idigue possit ec famula tua, guarda firma,
I am just curious. Monica or Mita? Monica is the only one that won't kill you. From what I've seen. So Monica. Thank you for tuning in, Hal. I really appreciate it. Because like I wasn't thinking this stream was gonna do very well because I thought like, hey, this stream was like because I was thinking this stream would probably like not perform that well, like while as I was doing it. Because first of all, like I think a lot of people chickened out, honestly. Hold her back. You're gonna need like the force of like 10 men. I could imagine like in some situations police being involved. I could imagine in some exorcisms police being involved.
La magia nera, le messe nere, le messe nere, le messe nere, no,
I've just decided I'm gonna do the stream solo. Please DM me if you want to be a part of the stream. If I was in that situation, Oh, I have no idea. Honestly, I would be terrified. I would be freaking out. I can imagine police being involved in some exorcisms, like to hold them down. Like that would be pretty useful, like having them handcuffed. Having them handcuffed. Like because I could imagine handcuffs being really useful in that situation. I hope you get famous one day. Thank you. Thank you.
Aspetta, oggi legame con Satana e con tutte le persone legate a Satana. Aspetta il suo fratello. Aspetta il suo fratello. Tutte le persone legate a Satana. Aspetta il suo fratello.
Just handcuff her to something. If the police were involved, they could just handcuff her to something.
Al suo fratello tutto ciò che è male, peccato, invidia, gelosia, perfidia, la malattia fisica.
Mai! Non la tocchi! Non la tocchi!
Usa tutti questi mali nell'inferno e di andare nell'inferno eterno. Nell'inferno eterno! Nell'inferno eterno! Incatenati da grandi che
Not forcing. Will you do a live stream of Faith of the Unholy Trinity game one day? I'm not sure about that, honestly. I've never heard of it. But I'll have to look into it. Yeah, this would honestly be easier with handcuffs.
della Vergine Santissima Immacolata, addio per darmi il partito, per iudicem diviorum et mortum.
It's some kind of exorcism game. Oh, really? Really? That's cool.
Per fare i mondi, per le ubioli potestate, vita ingenua, puta paura dei. Cristina, via de crescesim recurri, fu mecco dell'esercito risuscittivi. Addio deiterum, non mi infirmitate. Se virtù
I could just imagine the editor. Like, because I think the editor like it's a 2D version psychological game, but it's also a psychological game, no spoilers.
Protegge la favola di Cristina, ma non mi potete usare l'immagine del suo fece. Cede, Isidoro, cede, cede, cede. Dal ministro Cristi, che gli usano in chiusa potesta, i tecnici sui giubilari.
Okay, what happens at the end? So she just... So, like, it takes, like, a...
Before everyone left, Christina's family asked for her father to be blessed by Father Amort.
Una benedizione.
That must have been terrifying.
Invasion of an external evil force?
Holding her in a chokehold.
Called...
Like, holding her in a... Oh, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Please, don't worry about it. Anyways, I'm going to send another one over. This one is a little shorter, but I'll react to the longer video. Hold on, let's see. Watch this. Hold on, let me make sure that it's on Brave. On Brave. And I was like thinking, hey, this is a good idea to react to this. I'm gonna react with the Vatican. That- Okay, let me go and copy paste this into Brave. That was terrifying. That was terrifying. Like I'm. Okay, let's forward this over to send to your devices, and there we go. It's sending. So all right, I'm sending it over. So right over here. Huh. All right. In just a moment, it should be sent over. Waiting. Let's try that again just to make sure that it actually sends. Send. What did I do? Shared from iPhone.
So I think a lot of people are probably, at least the people that are watching this stream right now, a lot of you are skeptical about demon possession and about demons in general. How would you convince somebody, or what would you say to somebody who's just skeptical about the whole thing? Like maybe you're just making these stories up to get attention.
Yeah. I got Discord. I'll show you to my Discord server. So if you're on a mobile, it really depends. But just go to my about section and then click on where it says Discord server and boom, you're in. So that's how you get in. That's my server.
Depends on where one begins. You know, if you're a person of faith, believing is seeing. If you don't really have that faith, then you say seeing is believing. So it's coming at it from two different angles. But again, the basis I would have is what the church has consistently taught throughout, the church's 2,000-year-old history, is that evil is something personified in what we call the devil and these other fallen angels. Evil is not just humanity's inhumane treatment of one another. It's not just something of our own making. But I'm
so glad I did this stream. I am so glad I did this stream because I can talk a little bit more about my Catholic faith. It's always really good to talk about this stuff.
Is something personified in evil, again, that we call the devil and evil spirits. And the church has consistently taught that throughout her history, and it's backed up by sacred scripture.
Well, then tell me another. So you've been part of some exorcisms that when these people are possessed and it's really the demon. If there is such a thing as demon possession, it's the demons that are doing these sort of supernatural things. And the 4 criteria that you mentioned, what's an example of someone explicitly exemplifying, or a demon exemplifying one of those things, supernatural knowledge or power, or knowing some language, or even levitating? I've seen stories about levitation. Tell me some of these stories that you've seen personally.
Well, it's important to know that a demon can act on a person's memory and imagination. So the real challenge is when these manifestations begin, the demon is really working on the mind of those who are there.
Yeah, I'm holding, this is a rosary that I have over here.
The memory and imagination. So are these things truly happening, or is the demon causing myself and others to believe that what we see is real? Which again is why exorcists are trained not to focus on these things. But you're right, some of the examples of manifestations, we mentioned a few: eyes rolled in the back of the head, foaming at the mouth, exhibiting superhuman strength. I've seen demons manifest and pick up items like a metal swivel desk chair with just one hand lifted over their head. The person that did this didn't even weigh 100 pounds. Speaking languages otherwise unknown, speaking in Latin or in ancient Greek.
You forgot your
other
Discord login.
examples.
That's okay. That's okay.
The slithering on the ground like a snake. Again,
all of these things are meant to instill fear. I personally witnessed someone levitate. People have shared stories about once the demon manifests, it crawls up the wall like a spider. So again, these things are all meant to instill fear. And one of the things you said is very important. The distinction must always be made between the person as an individual and the actions now of the demon once they've taken over the person's body, treating that body as if it were its own. So exorcists are trained to make the distinction between the person as someone created in the image and likeness of God, and now the demon that is treating that body as if it were its own.
Let's talk about the philosophy behind demon possession. How can something like that be possible? How can a spiritual being take over a physical being and make them do things? How is that possible?
Well, nothing happens in the demonic world that God does not permit. And that's true of all reality. You know, God permits many things to happen. Doesn't mean that that's God desires them to happen, but God does permit things to happen. So why would a demon be interested in possessing a human body? And the answer is at the very core of Christianity. The greatest thing that God ever did for us is
give us free will.
The incarnation took on human form in the person of Jesus Christ.
Okay, like the greatest gift is that he became Jesus, like took on a human form and became Jesus.
So the devil or some other demon who wishes to mimic God in each and every way believes that he takes on human form by possessing a human body. And when they possess the human body, it's using the person's voice to speak, their hands to give gestures, their feet to walk. But again, once the demon takes over, then all of the actions are now wholly defined by the demon itself.
So, well, the question is, how does that happen? How can a spiritual being like a demon actually take possession over somebody and make them do things? Like, do they implant themselves in the soul? Is it is it neurons that they're fiddling with? What is that actually? What is happening?
It's not in the soul. There can be no actual connection between a human soul and a demon. So it's always of a physical nature. And that goes back to what we touched on earlier, is someone is creating an entry point whereby they are inviting a demon into their life. You know, a demon, as a pure spiritual creature, doesn't occupy time and space as we do. You know, you're in a room right now, I'm in a room, the room is containing us. A spirit isn't contained by space, it contains the space. Now that can kind of give you a headache to think about it for a moment, but as a pure spirit with intellect and will is not contained by space, it contains the space. So when one chooses to open up an entry point to evil into their life, it literally is that now the evil spirit is containing them. They've either pushed God away and invited the demon now to contain them, and that's how the manifestations then will begin and take place.
So it's a physical. So it's an analogy I was thinking about was it'd be like a demon coming in and like pushing the person out of the driver's seat into the passenger seat, and then the demon sits in the driver's seat and starts driving the car, so to speak. And the car is the analogy of the body, something like that.
Yeah. Yes. And when that happens, people I've worked with, some are fully aware of what's taking place, but they feel as if they're a prisoner trapped in their own body. They're incapable of stopping what's taking place. Other people I've worked with have told me that once the demon took over, they lose all recollection of what was taking place.
Let's think about some other natural explanations of what could have happened in these cases. So when you mentioned levitation, what could have been happening there that is not supernatural? Do you know what I mean? So like, go ahead.
I was going to say it could have been just something that I believe that I was seeing, because at the time the person was shaking very violently, and then I saw them rise up out of the chair, and then that's when the priest reached over and put his hand on the head of the person and pushed them back in the chair. Now there was another priest in the room, and we talked about it later, but he didn't see it. So I saw it, he didn't. Obviously, the priest doing the exorcism witnessed something to reach over and push the person back down into the chair by putting their hand on their head.
What about the one where the person grabbed the table, steel table, and raised it above their head with one hand?
Yeah, well, again,
were you the only one there?
That was the no. That
is
I would never
insane,
do an
like-
exorcism alone.
Okay.
So there's always other people that are present.
Yeah, that. I think we've mentioned that. We've gotten to that part before.
Certainly myself, I will have somebody else with me, and then the person that's possessed, and then a family member or friend. So it's never a one-on-one setting.
And so there were other people in the room that saw this person grab this table above their head.
Yes. Yep.
And there was no way they could have done that on their own volition.
Not from the physical capacity of the person. It would have just been impossible. Unless, I guess, you could say that their adrenaline was just on such a rush and a high that at that moment they just were able to do.
Let's see.
Something beyond their normal human capacity. But again, it's important to remember that leading up to the point of doing the exorcism, the person has gone through a psychiatric evaluation, they've gone through the physical evaluation, and these experts have said, we can't explain what is happening in the life of the person. If one were to go through, because some people that are dealing with mental health issues, schizophrenia, they can act out some of the very same symptoms that we would see in people who are demon possessed.
Wow. All right, that's gonna about do it for the stream. So, thanks for tuning in. And we'll call it. And may God be with you.